Hi everyone, today we are going to talk about the case study which is about implementing SAP IBP for a manufacturing company. So in this case study, we are going to talk about a manufacturing company which sells AC and fan from two of its location in India. One of those locations is Delhi and other one is Mumbai. And in each of these locations, the company has two customers, one being Reliance and Chroma, and even in Mumbai we have two customers, Reliance and Chroma. Now, as part of this project, the company wants to configure IBP system in such a way that it is able to store the sales history in SAP IBP, it is able to generate the sales forecast. It also needs to have the ability to perform manual adjustment to the sales forecast, and then the company wants to have a final forecast generated based on the sales forecast and the manual adjustment that it does. So for that purpose, we are going to configure IVP system in which there are few configuration steps, and the first step is about creating the attributes. So in order to configure IVP for supporting the process, we need to define 6 attributes as shown below. So first, two of them belongs to product, so product ID and product description. Then for location, we have location ID and location description, and customer ID, customer. So all these 6 attributes will help us to configure the IVP system as we proceed further. So the second step is to create master data type. So there are 3 master data type that will be created. First being XS product, second being XX location, and third being X customer. Now, once these master data are created, we will assign corresponding attributes to these master data and then activate it. Now, once master type is created, then we are all ready to create the planning area. When we create the planning area, first step is to assign a time profile which defines as to how long the data will be stored in the past. So is it 2 years in the past, 3 years in the past, and how long the data will be generated for the future, which will be 2 years, 3 years. So all that time range and time granularity related aspects are defined in the configuration object called time profile. And then in the attributes tab of the planning area, we add all the master data types that we have defined earlier. So in our case, we have defined XS product, XS location name, XS customer. So as we add these 3 master data types in our planning area, all the corresponding uh, attributes also get added to the planning. Now, as a next step in the planning area, we define the planning level. So planning level is an object where we associate the time attribute along with the master data related attributes. So in terms of time attribute, we use week because we're going to do the history capturing as well as forecasting in the weekly bucket. And from the master data type perspective, all the 3 master data types are added here in the planning level, and then few of the attributes, the product ID, the location ID, and the customer IDs are made as root attribute in this planning level. So 3 root attributes we see here, and one of the root attribute is related to time, which we don't see in this screenshot, but week is that attribute, which is a root attribute from the time perspective. So once planning level is defined, then the next step is to create the key figures in the planning area itself. So in order to perform the business task, we require these 4 key figures. First being sales history. In this key figure, we're going to store the weekly sales history data for whatever number of weeks that we want. In the sales forecast key figure, we're going to generate the forecast for future. In the adjusted sales forecast, we are going to make the manual adjustment as needed. And then the final sales forecast is the key figure in which we will add sales forecast and the adjusted sales forecast, and then we get the sum total quantity appearing in the final sales forecast key figure. So once key figure is created, we will activate the planning area, and then once the activation of planning area is complete, then we'll go back to the manage master data app, and then we'll create the master data values. So in this case, we see in our planning area we have three master data: product, location, and customer. So one by one, we'll create the values for these master data. So here we can see in case of customer, we have created two customer. One is Chroma, second is Reliance. For the location, we created two location, Delhi and Mumbai. And for the product, we created two products. One is AC, another is fan. So once these master data values have been created, we'll log in into the Excel. So there are a few steps in Excel that we need to perform when we log into our planning area for the first time in Excel. So we first create the connection, and then we have to also create a template. Once that template is created, then we can take a look at the key figure and the associated master data values here. And also, in order to see the key figure, we will have to create the planning object for the first time. So when we are loading our data in Excel template for the first time, we will be required to create the planning object, which ensures that this combination of product, location, and customer is created for the key figure. And then in this case, it is the sales history key figure, and we are able to manually input the sales history quantity in these key figures. Moving on, once the sales history is available, the next step is to generate the sales forecast. So in order to generate the sales forecast, we need to have one configuration object defined, which is called manage forecast model. In the manage forecast model, we define whether our forecasting bucket is weekly or daily. So in our case, it is weekly. We also define in how many weeks in the historical key figure we want to use the history number for. So we define that. So it's 8 weeks for now. So we'll use 8 weeks of historical data, and then we'll generate the 10 weeks of forecast. So that's the setting that we give in the model. And the other setting is that which key figure is used to be input is going to be used as an input during the forecasting run. So that's the sales history, and then which key figure will be used to store the newly generated forecast values. So that's the sales forecast key figure. And then in terms of algorithms, we are using simple average forecasting algorithm to generate the forecast values. So once this manage forecast model is created, then we can run the statistical forecast in our Excel as a job. So this screen shows how to run the statistical forecasting job. So this window has the forecast model to be used. So whatever forecast model we have created here, we will select that model, and then we'll run the forecasting job. So once this forecasting job is done, then we can see that in the sales forecast key figure, 66, 66, these are the numbers that are populated. So these are the numbers that has been generated by the IBP forecasting run. Then we have another key figure, which is adjusted sales forecast. So in this key figure, we can input manual adjustments. So in this case, in the first bucket, we have made 2 as the manual adjustment, then 3 as the manual adjustment, the next bucket, and then when we save it, and the third key figure, which is final forecast, it gets automatically updated. That is 66 plus 2 is 68, 66 plus 3 is 69. So you can see that total forecast is automatically reflecting the sum total of other two key figures. So this way, IBP is now ready to perform all those business tasks, which was about storing the sales history, generating the forecast, making the manual adjustment, and then getting the final forecast, which is the sum of sales forecast and the manual adjustment. So that is all about this session, this study. Thank you.